It is morning, and already the sun is strong. Standing low behind the gentle giants, the sun casts long shadows. The shade of a gentle giant offers a cool place to rest. And while resting, letting go of all thoughts, worries and concerns, my imagination takes me to the other world, the one that exists between light and shadow, inhabited by fairies and other beings. This quiet moment of reverie might be considered by some to be unreal. But for me, what is real is the feeling. There is peace. Where do you experience quiet moments of reverie, Wonder Weavers? I'd love you to share with me in the comments below. Hello, Wonder Weavers. I hope that you've had a delightful week wherever you are in the world. A big warm welcome to all of the new Wonder Weavers. I'm incredibly grateful for all of your support. So thank you for your likes, your shares, your subscriptions, and thank you also for sharing with me. I love learning about what lights you up, what projects you're working on. So if you would like to share, leave a comment in the description box below. I read all of the messages, and it just is so beautiful to connect with you and learn from you too. This week I followed inspiration and had an unexpected creative adventure. Last week I was renovating the first floor of the Enchanted Cottage, and as you might recall if you've watched the vlog, when removing the stickers from the wall, an unusual section of fretwork was exposed in the kitchen. What I didn't show was that a second area or section of fretwork was exposed on the second floor, and I was brainstorming and wandering through my imagination, trying to work out what to do with it, whether to cover it or make it a feature. In this video I show you how I turned it into a rather imaginative feature. I've turned it into a magical window, so a false window looking out over Fairyland. So I hope you enjoy this vlog, Wonder Weavers, and enjoy imagining what Fairyland might actually be like. In this mini creative adventure, we venture into the small room on the second floor of the Enchanted Cottage. I'm going to transform this small space into a sitting room, and its main feature is going to be a false window. Last week I uncovered this unusual fretwork. Thought it might work well as part of a false triangular window or gabled window. Since you can't see this window from the outside, I've decided to make it a magical one. I'm going to paint a mini mural, and it will seem as if, looking out from the window, you're looking across a valley towards Fairyland. When sketching the mural, I consulted some of my favourite books about Fairyland, including those of the late Shirley Barber. Do you have a favourite story about Fairyland, Wonder Weavers? I'd love you to share with us below. After preparing the wall, applying several layers of gesso on top of the chalkboard paint I applied last week, I sketched the mural in my journal. In the foreground there will be dark, tree-like vegetation, which gives way to a plain. Fairyland will sit in the distance, and its major landmark will be a crystal palace. I'll place the castle roughly in the middle of the picture, but off-center. The castle will be nestled at the base of mountains. With a graphite pencil, I lightly map out the landscape on the wall. Next, I begin to paint the landscape with acrylic paint. I'm expecting that it will take at least 4 or 5 layers of paint. I start with my darkest colours. I paint a blue sky. Once the darker layers are dry, I begin to add a lighter shade of the colours. Very soon, the landscape begins to take shape. To help me assess the overall impression or effect, I make sure to step back and have a look at the painting from a distance. Towards the end, I add some tiny dots and unusual markings to represent wildflowers. Once I'm happy with the painting, I paint the fretwork with acrylic paint. While the painting is drying, I create the window's frame. Following the wall's shape and dimensions, I first design a window, sketching it in my journal. Drawing inspiration from gabled windows, I divide the window into smaller sections. As much as possible, I try and keep these smaller sections equally spaced. I then transfer my design using tracing paper to craft paper. Then with my hobby knife, I cut out the frame, using my graphite lines as a guide. Next, I paint the frame with brown acrylic paint. In hindsight, it would have been better to paint the paper beforehand. I apply the paint mindfully with a hard brush, creating a distressed look. And just as I hoped, painting brown acrylic paint on craft paper has helped to create a texture similar to wood grain. Next, I cut out a template of the window from cartridge paper, and then take a small sheet of acetate, which will act as imitation window glass. And then using my template, I cut out the imitation glass. I then glue the craft paper to the acetate sheet. Once dry, I glue the window to the wall. So far so good, Wonder Weavers. Next, I'm going to create a tree. As the cottage is for the good folk, to incorporate aspects of nature into the rooms. The tree will stand at the threshold of the sitting room, acting as a guardian. For this tree, I'm drawing inspiration from one of my favourites, the birch. For the tree's trunk, I'm going to use a dowel rod, which I've cut to size. Next, I create the branches out of metal wire. I cut a long piece of wire, and the wire I'm using is 20 gauge. Then I bend it in half, and with my nose pliers, I begin to twist, wrapping the two lengths together. And at various intervals, I slot a smaller length of metal wire in between the two larger ones. These shorter lengths of wire are the secondary branches. I then cover the wire with craft paper. This is shredded craft paper, which is often used for packing. I'm adding a little bit of PVA glue and then winding the craft paper over the top. Then with an awl, I create holes at the top of the dowel rod. Once dry, I paint the branches and the trunk with acrylic paint. I apply several layers. The first one is dark brown, and then later I paint a white layer. For the leaves, I've made a template. I drew leaves of various sizes on white cardstock and then cut them out with my hobby knife. Then, using my graphite pencil, I transfer the leaves to green collage paper and then cut them out with my hobby knife. I have a nice little mountain of leaves and also a lovely decorative page. I might use that for another project at some stage. I then assemble the tree, gluing first of all the metal wire branches to the trunk and then later the leaves. I lay the floors And in contrast to the first floor, this one will be made of wooden floorboards or craft sticks. I glued the tree in place and then paint the floorboards dark brown with watered down acrylic paint, and then add some final touches. Thank you for watching, Wonder Weavers. I hope that you're able to capture even just a few moments to enjoy the serenity of your sanctuary, and that might be a place close to you, or it might even be at home. Take care, stay well, and don't forget to play. Adios. Ciao.